Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond Investing, the place where we keep it 100 when it comes to sustainable and innovative investing. Today's episode is on Airbnb, a company that is in many ways ahead of its time and also a very innovative and disruptive company. We will start by looking into the industry itself and then dig deeper into Airbnb. And I will be reacting to the share price target updates coming in from the Wall Street analysts and also the mainstream finance media. But before we start, I'll give you 5 seconds to press the like button and do subscribe and ring the notification button for more content. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's get starting. As we all know, the share price was supposed to be released at $68, but later on it was released at $146 to the public. There were some buyers that were able to access the price at $68. I know, for example, that some of the institutional buyers were able to buy this stock at $68, but also Airbnb hosts were offered the stock at $68. And since then, the share price have been fluctuating somewhere between 125 upwards towards 153 as of today. So we're going to discuss, is this new price target that is just coming in something that is valid? How come the IPO was coming in so low at $68, but then ending up at 146, and now we have a mainstream target of around 200. So a very mixed picture on the Airbnb stock here. To start with, let's get familiarized with Airbnb. As we all know, Airbnb works in the shared economy space. They provide listing opportunities for people that want to rent out their homes for tourists or business travelers or any type of traveling. Essentially stay at your home away from their home at a much lower rates than hotels, with a more personable atmosphere and a more intimate staying location, more or less, right? And the idea started in 2017 when the two founders and roommates at that time, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, started a bed and breakfast renting out their living room space with an air mattress, hence the name Airbnb. Now, 13 years later, Airbnb has grown tremendously. They have over 650,000 hosts in their platform and over 6 million listings. Through their seamless platform, they have a global coverage in over 100,000 cities. And since 2008, they've had over 400 million guests. And these are some amazing numbers, I would say, and the growth that Airbnb has had is tremendous. At the same time, I think we take it for granted when it comes to travel, that hotels are available, accommodations are available. But at the same time, the rate of travel across the globe has exploded since the end of the Cold War. People have felt more secure to travel across the continents. You can see in this data that I'm showing right here, especially after the 1980s, when the Cold War started to ramp down, you can see a shift in the travel rate across the globe, now reaching above 1.4 billion people traveling at a much higher rate than ever. In addition, the method of travel has also become much safer. Especially the airlines have managed to reduce the fatality of aviation tremendously. But of course, the pandemic, and especially 2020, will put a dent on this number. And we also know that Airbnb was hit very hard by this, and so was the industry at large. But when things come back on track, I think in the terms of longevity, the market will grow. It will still be there, and that will open up for other players as well, not just for Airbnb to take advantage of this growing number in travel. Now let's look into the addressable market, and here we will have to rely on the numbers from Airbnb because I don't think there is a lot of industry experts or analysts that really understand how big the market is. I think essentially the only ones that know the addressable market is Airbnb. They have created this economy more or less from scratch, and they've collected so much information throughout their platform, and based on that, they can both predict and project the addressable market. And according to the S1 filing that Airbnb did for their IPO, they divide their total addressable market into three areas: a 1.8 trillion for the short-term stay, 210 billion for long-term stay, and 1.4 trillion for experience, which gives a total of 3.4 trillion. Yeah, I know, it's a big number. And I've tried to find what is the current addressable market and also what's the future addressable market. And it's tough to find any rational number. It goes anything from 600 billion up towards a trillion. Still very far from what Airbnb is projecting here. Now, these figures are only addressing the traditional hotel economy, while we know that Airbnb addresses much more than that. Everything from the bed and breakfast to the shared space. And as this platform democratizes this economy, opens up for additional type of means for people to generate revenue, the economy and this market grows tremendously. So there is some credibility, I would say, to the Airbnb numbers when it comes to the total addressable market. If we go with that number, the 3.4 trillion as the total addressable market, considering the fact that Airbnb, the initial offering was set to be at $68 per share, would give them a valuation of just above $30 billion, which would put their valuation at just 1% of the total addressable market. And yes, this would give them a lot of room to grow over the years. But what happened at IPO day was that Airbnb's market cap reached above 80 billion, which actually gives them double the market share that they projected. Or was it so that the market actually had a much higher appetite for these type of offering than what Airbnb thought? Anyways, let's listen into some of the mainstream finance media's comments 1 month after the IPO.
I think the main thing that investors when it comes to the online travel stocks need to keep in mind is that the industry is going to recover, but this recovery is not going to be linear. We think exiting 2021, we're close to more normalized levels, but probably still a bit below, say, the fourth quarter of 2019. Against that backdrop, we think a company like Airbnb is probably the safest stock to own here. We think that they've got exposure in all the right places when it comes to leisure travel in particular, which we think is going to come back more robustly than corporate travel, where there's some questions about whether the pandemic has led to maybe some long-term kind of demand destruction. And also because Airbnb has got really the most unique and varied accommodation inventory out there that speaks to the broadest number of potential traveler use cases, including some novel ones that have popped up during the pandemic, like work from anywhere, for example.
So I agree with Tom White here on his assessment. I think, as he says, Airbnb will have a much more resilient comeback than some of the traditional hotel brands. Their platform is much more flexible and it is more resilient to this type of environment than the traditional hotel brands, right? And the fact that Airbnb has a much broader accommodation base for travelers makes them more resilient than traditional hotels. Another interesting point is that the target price from Tom here at 172 is just below some other analysts that has put the target price at $200. One of them is Jim Cramer, as you can listen here.
Jim, in your Mad Dash this morning, you talked about Airbnb and you said that you want the stock to go higher. How high do you think that Airbnb can go, and can it keep this momentum going?
Catherine, that is just an absolute great question. I do believe that Airbnb is going to have a fabulous quarter. The longer the U.S. fails in bringing out the vaccine, the more Airbnb will be trialed. As it's trialed, I think people recognize that it's a great bargain. Americans love a bargain. Airbnb is a great bargain. The numbers are unbelievable. You list 5 days, you tend to be get a client, get someone to rent your place. The re-ups are amazing. It's a disruptive technology that people truly like. And therefore, could it go to 200? I can come up with a scenario that it's worth that, given that the total addressable market's $1.5 trillion. A lot of the analysts like it. Brian Chesky is a fabulous CEO. One of a kind right now. That's a pretty admirable position to be in.
So also Jim Cramer here paints a very bullish picture when it comes to Airbnb. And I agree with him that when we come back to a normal situation after the pandemic, people will go back to traveling. And of course, Airbnb will be one of the main beneficiary of this. And I think we can see signs of the resilience when it comes to Airbnb's model compared to the traditional players in this market, especially during the pandemic. We can see that their gross profit actually was not hit as hard as the traditional players. You can see here Airbnb had a negative gross profit of 26% compared to previous year. The other three major players in the space, Marriott, Hilton, and Intercontinental, was hit somewhere between 33 upwards 46% for Marriott in this case. Again, you see that the platform and the formula that Airbnb has is resilient even when it comes to this type of epidemic situations, right? And he does bring out some interesting points when it comes to Airbnb's performance. The fact that the listing takes only 5 days until you get an occupancy, and that this is part of the high growth, high performance type of platform, which is, as he mentioned as well, a bargain in the eyes of investors, especially in the on-demand gig economy that we live in. Now, if I summarize my thoughts on the company going forward and on the share price, first of all, I think Airbnb is a terrific company. It's a terrific platform. I think they are capturing something in the market that many has not thought of, and they are essentially building this new economy, providing people the means and method of sharing their homes, and by that collecting additional revenue, right? So I do think when the pandemic is over and we are back to normal, that Airbnb will have a significant, unassailable, I think, advantage compared to other players out there. And I think they will continue to disrupt the accommodation and hosting economy. And I think they have a lead against the traditional players in this space, and it will be tough for the traditional players in this market and in this economy to reach Airbnb. So I think the target of $200 when it comes to the share price is fair. I think the initial offering was not done in a good way. I don't think the offering considered the fact that there was a hunger for this type of companies to be offered in the market. So I think the offering there was not done in a good way. And for the long-term view, I take some guidance from the compensation tranches that they have put for the CEO, Brian Chesky. I think he's a terrific CEO, and I think he deserves the compensation trenches that they have set out for him. You can see there that in the coming 10 years, they believe that the share price will increase quite dramatically. And I think even this is somewhat on the lower side, mid to lower side, I would say. Stock price will go higher than what they have estimated here. So definitely Brian will be able to reach these tranches much faster than what is estimated. Was the same thing done when it comes to Tesla. Elon Musk's compensation scheme was done at a much lower rate than what actually happened with the stock. And this is my feeling as well, especially when it comes to companies that are innovative, creating an economy and dominating it and monopolizing it. I think share prices will continue to be driven upwards. People hunger for these type of companies out there in the market. And we've seen that, of course, when the offering came. So what I've done with the share, I managed to time the dip that the share had the days after the IPO offering. So when it was down at 125, I bought a small share of Airbnb, and I will continue to track the company. And as things progress, I will make sure that I'll put a bit more into the company, because I think and do believe that they will have a great future ahead of them. Thank you guys for watching. Now you know what I'm going to do with Airbnb. I would like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts when it comes to Airbnb? Do you believe in this type of platform dominating the future of this economy? What future do you see for Airbnb? Do you believe that price right now, the target price of 200 that is being circulated, is that something fair to be offered for Airbnb? And let's continue the discussion in the comment section. Meanwhile, I do appreciate if you guys give us a thumbs up by pressing the like button. Do subscribe and ring the notification button for more content. Thank you, stay safe, and see you around.